The other day, I was sitting in traffic like I do basically every day of my life living in the United States. In front of me was a car completely littered with bumper stickers talking about their political views. On the corner, there was a giant billboard with a soda on it, plastered up next to the words, "Obey your thirst." To my left was a woman texting and eating an entire cheeseburger in her car while stopped in traffic. And to my right, in front of the massive parking lot for the local grocery store, was a homeless guy using drugs in the street. This is a typical picture of a typical day in a typical American city, and for some reason, on this particular day, the picture looked a lot different to me. Why? Well, because I actually took some time to notice it. See, I've been in a weird headspace lately, a headspace in which I've stepped back and begun to question the world we live in, and one that, if I'm not careful, could lead to a very nihilistic mindset. But let me start with this. Do you ever feel like something isn't quite right with your life? That the things you do on a regular basis feel unnatural, weird, or simply strange? We don't live like humans anymore, and it's causing collective mental health to plummet in much of the Western world. And at the same time, we all sit here wondering why something feels off with our lives. This talk will help to paint a picture of what exactly that is and how to fix it to live a life that makes you truly happy. If this helps you, consider subscribing or buying me a coffee by using the link in the description. It helps to fuel me while I write about these topics. Anyways, since the rise of the internet, we haven't been living in the real world. What was once a day grounded in reality, full of human exchanges, physical interactions with the world around us, and solid relationships, has evolved into something dystopian. We wake up, put our processed, chemical-laden food in the microwave, sit down in front of our triple monitor setup, and begin our hyper-productive work session in which we check our email once every 3 minutes, send pointless messages to show how busy we are, and pretend to contribute to our meaningless endeavors so that we can maintain our mediocre job and be a successful member of society. We eat things that are killing us so that we can save time and increase shareholder value. We spend our free moments staring at a portal into a non-existent world, consuming the altered version of other people's realities, and we go to the bar and drink poison to feel better about the entire process. We don't trust other people because they're probably going to hurt us. We don't go outside because there's nowhere to go that isn't surrounded by tens of thousands of speeding vehicles. And the only hobbies that we have involve, once again, escaping this reality and ascending into a virtual, non-existent world to unwind with things like video games and movies. Dating has been commandeered by an algorithm that determines who would be a good fit for you. Our money has been commandeered by a government that can increase or decrease the value of it on a whim. And our time has been commandeered by large corporations that do everything they can to keep you scrolling, 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 scrolling. Snap out of it, it's time to go back to the real world. Our collective mental health has plummeted because we aren't in the real world anymore. Our only goals in life revolve around obtaining more money, to consume more empty material items, to show off the amount of money we have, all while neglecting the things that truly matter, our health, our relationships, and the depth of our interactions with the world. Somehow, over time, we shifted further and further into this artificial reality dominated by unnatural things that aren't in our control. We've given up our agency and our freedom to live the life that we want to live in exchange for comfort and complacency. And that, my friends, is why you feel so anxious. Now it's time to change that. If you want to gain control of your life, live to your fullest potential, and feel fulfilled by your existence, you need to start by wrestling back that control that the virtual world has on you. As humans, our brains don't understand that the virtual world is not, in fact, real life. We constantly look at screens filled with stimulating images of people with perfect bodies, perfect lives, infinite wealth, and extreme happiness, and we associate these projections of reality as actual reality. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between the curated brand image of Iman Godzi and the real, deeply flawed human version of Iman Godzi. That human version feels the same things you feel: insecurity, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. But you don't see that because the portfolio of edited, refined Instagram content prevents you from seeing that. So when you begin to disconnect and detox from this barrage of social media propaganda, you can realize that we're all struggling to find our place in the world and not feel so bad when you're also doing exactly that. I mean, that's a natural part of human existence. But gaining back control of our lives from the virtual world goes a bit deeper than this. Everyone knows the dangers of social media. But what people don't realize is that the virtual world still dominates our lives outside of social media. If you work on a computer, then go home, listen to a podcast on the way home, then warm up dinner while putting on your favorite TV show, and then lay in bed and watch YouTube videos to fall asleep, you weren't technically on any social media. but you still spent your entire day not present, living in a simulated world that once again does not exist. Humans need to have a physical interaction with their environment. We aren't made to exist solely in an artificial virtual world. We need to touch things, smell things, hear things, and see things. We need to be in the sun. We need to eat foods that come fresh from the earth, and we need to use our bodies to move around, sweat, and feel the breeze on our skin. When you sacrifice these things for mental stimulation through screens, you're losing a part of what makes you human. You sacrifice these smiles on people's face when you crack a joke for the 143 millisecond delay and reproduced sounds that come through in a compressed format across the internet on Discord. It's really not the same thing, and as much as COVID made us think that it is the same, it just isn't. Instead of sitting at a cafe, drinking a coffee, and seeing the other humans moving around the world, living their lives, you're sitting on TikTok looking at reproduced images of people who aren't in your world and wondering why their lives seem so much better than yours. Well, you know whose lives aren't better than yours? The people right next to you at the very same cafe who are doing the very same thing as you, living in a state of constant virtual insanity. We no longer interact with each other because why would we? We can do it without the social anxiety, without the risk of rejection, and without any of the negative human emotions that exist in the real world if we just hand off our relationships to the virtual world. There's no awkward eye contact on text, and I don't even have to worry about showering. Sounds like a better option if you ask me. And that's the thing. The easier option is almost never the best option. The easy option is to sit on your couch and watch 570 TikToks in the 90 minutes that most people spend on the app every day. But the best option is to go out, be uncomfortable, and spend those 90 minutes in a public place where you have the chance to interact with the other people who are also, just like you, longing for more friends that they can use as an escape from the very same world that has indoctrinated all of us. And funny enough, this is still just the tip of the iceberg when describing how to break the dystopia that we live in. Disconnecting from social media and re-enabling your real-world interactions by limiting your virtual world interactions are just two of the things that need to be done to make your existence feel more human. The others are based off of these same principles, but require a bit more conscious effort. In the Western world, we live at one of the most unsustainable paces imaginable. Our main goal is to increase economic well-being by making more money, period. Over time, this has become at the forefront of the typical American's mind, and if we aren't doing something that furthers our career, helps us to make passive side income, or achieve financial independence, we are losers and there's no hope for us. The goal of life is money, and anything else needs to supplement our work to create what some call a work-life balance. That's a term that you've probably heard 1,000 times, but have you ever really thought about what it means? It means that we need to separate work and life as two distinct spheres of existence. These two things are equally important, work and life, and each of these spheres has to compete for our attention. Do we want to grind and climb the corporate ladder, or spend time with our families? Do we want to make enough money to pay the bills, or have a solid relationship with our significant other? And if you really think about it, this concept is crazy. The idea of compartmentalizing our lives into things that generate economic value and things that generate personal value seems like a severely flawed way of thinking, and trying to think this way will leave you disheveled in both your work and personal lives. And we already see this happening across the board in the United States. At work, you are constantly thinking about the things you want to do outside of work, and when you're outside of work, you're thinking about work. The irony of this situation is insane, and until you learn to develop a healthy relationship with work, you, again, will always feel like something is off in your life. The key to developing a healthy work relationship is to find meaning in what you do. You need to integrate these two often separate entities into one and ensure that your work supplements your life with some form of meaning and vice versa. Now, let me be clear. This isn't saying that you need to find your dream job overnight and be doing the most valuable work in the world. That's an extremely unrealistic way to think. Instead of approaching work as a necessary evil that you have to do in order to enjoy your life, try to find something that brings joy in your work itself. Even if you have a service job as a barista, try to make the best coffees that you can. Or try to get enjoyment from seeing the smile on customers' faces when they taste your coffee and you know that you put your heart and soul into every cup. Or if you're a mechanic, try to get joy from knowing that you're helping someone continue their lives and that you're fully invested into the experience of fixing the car with great attention to detail. Some jobs are harder to find fulfillment with than others, but if you look hard enough, you should be able to find something that makes you at least a little bit happy in your work, even if it's simply your interactions with your coworkers. Now, there's definitely some circumstances where this may be impossible. Maybe you absolutely hate your job and you're working to survive, and something like this seems like a luxury for you. And that's okay. This is where you need to change your approach. If your job is truly miserable, obviously try to find a new one. If that isn't possible, then you should try to instead use your job as a tool to enjoy your life. Part of the emptiness that comes from Western work culture is involved with this dynamic. If you hate your job and you see it as something you have to do to make the money that you need to survive, you aren't necessarily doing something bad. This thought process at times can be unavoidable. The problem, however, stems from your relationship to the money that you make from the job. If you're working this job to save up money for nicer things, you're setting yourself up for failure. Even in many Eastern countries where people are significantly poorer than what you would be in a Western country, the mindset around working jobs is different. The fundamental difference is that these people see the job they do as a simple fact of their life. This job is what puts food on the table, and as long as they have enough food on the table and a table to eat it at, they are relatively happy with their circumstances. The trap that many Americans fall into, and the collective mindset that's caused massive amounts of unhappiness and endless mental health problems, comes from the urge to have more. Our consumerist society associates your value with the things that your job allows you to acquire. The marketing that tells you to obey your thirst means that you need to buy that soda with your hard-earned money or you're a loser. You need to have the latest clothes, a nicer car, a cooler house, that new product that your favorite YouTuber is promoting, that trip to Mexico that you see everyone posting about on social media, and more and more and more. People in the East don't care about these things, and even though they make significantly less money on average than you do, they know what their value stems from. So their low-paying jobs that aren't particularly enjoyable are fine for them because it allows them to survive and ensure that they can nurture healthy relationships with the people around them. The people around them and their real physical environments. They don't need to think about the idea of work-life balance because once they have their needs met and have a little bit of disposable income, they don't even think about work anymore. The reason that we need this balance is because of the pressure to have more. We need to work more to have more than we have right now, so we need to balance this excess work with our lives in order to achieve future happiness. Future happiness that will never come because when the time rolls around, we once again want more. And that connects perfectly with the first section of this video. We've somehow developed a dystopian mindset where the things that we want are worth sacrificing relationships for. Our kids come second to our work because we want to give them a 3-bedroom house instead of a 2-bedroom house. We're hypnotized by the grass that seems greener on the other side, but the reality is that the grass has an Instagram filter on it. We have everything we need right here. There's nothing else worth pursuing. Nobody's living in the present moment anymore because the need for more is making us think about how we're going to get more. And then, because we're so tired at the end of the day, due to the energy that it takes for our brain to exist in a future state, that we take the easy path and try to feel better by consuming content, making us feel like we're already in that desired future state. It's a paradox that we need to break by reconnecting with the real world. How often do you see someone complaining about how exhausted they are because of a walk in the woods with no technology? Or how they need to unwind after a session of sitting in a garden enjoying the sun? Or that they need a drink because of the stress caused by reading a book on their balcony or watering their plants? That's the thing. You don't, and that's because all of these things are activities that involve solely the present moment. You aren't thinking about how many more times you need to water your plants in order to get them to grow to their biggest possible size, because the plant that you have in front of you is already really pretty. You aren't strategizing about how many years you need to walk in the woods in order to get the fastest walking time, and then how you need to travel to another section of woods once you achieve that time. You're simply walking and enjoying the forest the way it currently is. And that's the second pillar of this conversation. First, we need to re-immerse ourselves into our real physical world by lessening our dependence on the dopamine-inducing virtual world. Then, we need to form a healthy relationship with our work that allows us to recenter ourselves in the present moment that we should have been existing in the first place. Once we do these two things, the world becomes our oyster and we can experience life the way it's supposed to be lived. The dystopian cloud that hangs over the entirety of Western culture will be replaced with sunny skies, allowing us to view our current life as it is now and fix the things that are causing us mental anguish. But the irony is that these two things alone will make you realize that most of the mental anguish you already have was in fact caused by the clouds themselves. I hope this conversation helps you, and if it does, please consider buying me a coffee by using the link in the description. I love coffee, and it's one of the things that, ironically, helps me to re-immerse myself into the present moment and write about these topics. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for our next talk. Peace.